begins with the vast desert stretching endlessly beneath a fading orange sky. The kind of evening where every sound feels sharper and every gust of wind carries meaning. Elena stood at the edge of her settlement, watching the sun slip behind the mesas. She had always loved this time of day, but tonight the calm felt deceptive. Ever since the elders announced a marriage alliance that she had never agreed to, the world seemed heavier around her. The proposal was framed as a solution to a long-standing conflict, but to her, it felt like she was being treated as a bargaining piece in a dispute. She didn't create. Not far away, Talon, an Apache scout known for his sharp instincts and clearer sense of justice, rode toward the settlement. He had sensed the unease spreading through the community like a quiet storm. Talon respected Elena. She had always shown fairness toward his people, even when others hesitated. When he heard whispers of the forced marriage, he believed he couldn't stay silent. Approaching the settlement council, he pleaded for them to reconsider. His voice carried both urgency and respect as he warned them that taking away someone's choice could create deeper wounds than any land disagreement. But the elders, weary from years of conflict, brushed aside his words as if he were speaking of something trivial, rather than someone's life. Luke, a cowboy who often delivered supplies to the settlement, had arrived earlier that day. He wasn't part of any dispute, nor did he involve himself in other people's decisions. He preferred quiet work and long rides, but he noticed the shift in the air. Elena didn't carry herself with her usual confidence. Instead, she moved with a heaviness he could not ignore. When Talon walked away from the elders with frustration in his eyes, Luke quietly approached him and asked what had happened. In a few simple sentences, Talon explained, and Luke felt something tighten inside him. It bothered him deeply to see someone cornered into a fate they didn't choose. As night settled, Elena wandered toward the corral. The flickering fire cast long shadows that swayed as if mirroring her uncertainty. She didn't know what her life would look like if she went through with the marriage. She didn't want to imagine it. What she didn't yet realize was that both Talon and Luke, men from different worlds, were already stepping quietly into a decision that would change everything. They would not let her face the darkness alone. Begins with Elena waking to the sound of hurried footsteps outside her family's tent. The settlement felt different that morning, too busy, too loud, as if everyone wanted to avoid thinking about what the day truly meant. Preparations were happening everywhere, riders tightening saddles, women arranging supplies, elders whispering among themselves. To almost everyone else, the marriage was a strategic move that promised peace. But to Elena, it felt like she was being quietly pushed toward a cliff. She tried speaking to her father again, hoping he would understand her fear. He listened, but only in the way someone listens to a storm they believe will pass on its own. "This will help everyone," he told her, "and in time you'll see it's the right path." Elena wanted to believe him, but her heart felt heavier with every word. Later that afternoon, Talon returned to the settlement. Riding fast and without hesitation, he went directly to the council, his expression firm. He repeated his warning that forcing someone's life into a direction they never chose would not create harmony. It would create resentment that could last generations. He spoke passionately, not just for Elena, but for the principle of freedom. But the elders only shook their heads. They were tired of conflict. They wanted an immediate solution, even if it meant overlooking the cost to one person. Luke observed everything from a distance. He wasn't Apache, and he wasn't a member of Elena's settlement, but he understood fairness. Watching her move through the day with quiet dread made something inside him churn. When the ranchers from the other family arrived, earlier than expected, bringing with them an attitude of entitlement, Luke felt tension rise like heat off the desert sand. By evening, the situation escalated. The ranchers insisted the ceremony happen immediately, claiming it would prevent any chance of interference. Elena tried to stall, to at least be heard, but they dismissed her with cold practicality. When two of them attempted to escort her from her tent, Talon stepped forward, blocking their path. "She said no," he stated firmly, his stance unwavering. The confrontation drew attention fast. Luke moved in naturally, not with aggression, but with a solid, grounded presence that made the ranchers hesitate. The air grew dangerously still as both sides weighed their next move. Elena realized then that if she stayed, the pressure would only grow. Talon leaned toward Luke and whispered urgently, "We must move her." "They won't stop." Luke hesitated only for a heartbeat before nodding. He looked at Elena and saw not fear, but a hope she wasn't ready to voice. "We ride tonight," he said quietly. And with that, the decision was sealed. Begins in the final stretch of night. The sky still dark, but beginning to soften at the edges. The settlement was mostly quiet, with only a few guards awake, their lanterns flickering like restless fireflies. In the shadows near the corral, Talon and Luke prepared the horses with careful, quiet movements. Every sound felt louder than it should have, every metal buckle, every shifting hoof, every breath. Elena stood between them, wrapped in a cloak Talon had brought to help her blend with the night. She kept glancing toward her family's tent, feeling a mix of guilt and resolve. Leaving meant freedom, but it also meant stepping away from everything she'd known. Talon checked the path ahead one last time, using his knowledge of the land to choose the safest route. He explained that once they crossed into Apache-protected territory, the ranchers would not dare to follow. Luke saddled his strongest horse, the one steady enough to carry Elena through rough terrain. He kept his voice low as he spoke to her, reminding her that they would only go as far as she wanted, and that she would make the decisions from here on out. She appreciated his calmness. It grounded her trembling nerves. Just as they prepared to mount, a voice erupted across the camp. One of the ranchers, awake earlier than expected, spotted the movement. His shout tore through the stillness. "They're taking her!" Within seconds, other men jerked awake, scrambling for their horses and weapons. The camp burst into frantic chaos, boots thudding, horses whinnying, orders being shouted into the breaking dawn. Talon motioned quickly, and Luke swung onto his horse before lifting Elena up behind him with practiced efficiency. The horse reacted instantly, lunging forward as Luke pressed his heels to its sides. Talon rode beside them, guiding them toward the narrow canyon pass he had chosen. Behind them, hooves thundered as the ranchers gave chase. Elena clung tightly to the saddle, her heart pounding as the wind whipped around her. The loud shouts grew fainter as the canyon walls narrowed, funneling them into Talon's chosen path. The rising sun illuminated the ridge above them, turning the sand and rocks a warm gold. Once they crossed into Apache-watched land, the ranchers slowed, hesitated, and finally stopped. They knew better than to push farther. When the riders disappeared, Luke slowed his horse, and the three finally caught their breath in a quiet clearing. Elena looked around, the world suddenly wide and unfamiliar. She felt fear, yes, but also something new, control. Talon dismounted and faced her. "You're safe now," he said. "What happens next is your choice." For the first time, the future was open, and it belonged to her.